Hi beautiful, welcome back to my channel. And surprisingly, I am wearing color. I know I'm usually a black/gray type of girl, but today I thought I would spice things up. I'm going to try out the brand new Urban Decay Naked Reloaded eyeshadow palette. This is sort of like a revamp of the Naked eyeshadow palette from Urban Decay. So this is what the eyeshadow looks like. It comes in a sort of like a fabric velvety texture, and then inside this is what the shades look like. Now it has a mixture of warm and cool tone shades, which I like, and I'm actually quite surprised to see a lot of like pink undertone shimmers as opposed to it having more of a golden/bronzy shimmers. In this palette, if you guys have not already seen, you get 4 big pans and the rest are normal size. So the 4 big pans are supposedly the shades that you would normally use on an everyday basis. If you are a neutral lover, this eyeshadow palette I think would be great for you. I definitely could see myself using this a lot more than the Naked 2 palette, which I own from Urban Decay. The hype on this eyeshadow palette has somewhat died down a little bit, mainly because everything that is new comes to New Zealand and Australia a little bit later than the actual release date, hence why it took me a while to get my hands on this eyeshadow palette. Without further ado, let's hop right into the video. For moisturization today, I'm just gonna quickly pop on the Too Faced Hangover X primer. I have actually not tried this before, and I just bought the travel size because when I had an eczema flare-up, I was looking for a primer that is moisturizing and won't irritate my skin, and it feels very hydrating on the skin. And if you guys see this, these are like eczema flare up, and I have one here as well and one just on here, so just ignore that. It's just patches that I have, and it's actually healing. We're going to let that sit for a bit. I've already done my brows, so what I'm going to do is to prime my lids, and for that I am going to use the Fenty Match Sticks. This one is in the shade Caramel. It's a lot darker than my actual skin tone, but I find that if you could see on my lids, I have a lot of discoloration on my lids, and also I have a really bad dark circle, so I find that using a darker shade helps neutralize it. I am not going to swatch this eyeshadow palette because there's a million swatches online, so I'm just going to apply the shades directly onto my lids, and I will give you my thoughts as well. So I think I am going to go with Bribe, which has a little bit of like a sheen to it, as opposed to Blur, which is completely matte. That shade Blur has got more of a beige undertone, so I'm going to go for Bribe. And oh, it feels so good to peel the mirror. For transition shade, I'm not sure if I am going to go for a cool tone look or more of a warm tone look, but I guess we'll find out. So I'm going to start with Boundaries, which is this one right here. Oh, that is so pigmented. And it actually matches my shirt. That's actually a really nice transition shade, and I'm glad that I went with that. To deepen the outer V, I think I am going to jump right in and use this shade right here called Endgame. Oh, that is so pigmented. So I'm going to use circular motions just to blend that out. I have a little bit of like dry patch around this crease area right here, so the eyeshadows won't blend as well, but surprisingly enough it blends over the top of my dry patch, which is a good sign, I feel like. And I am going to go back to the shade Boundaries just to blend the edges, and maybe we'll add a touch of retro just to bring a little bit of warmth onto the lids. So I'm only gonna focus this on like the brow bone area. What I'm going to do is to use this shade right here called Distilled. It's a nice bronzy shade. And as expected, I actually love shimmery shades from the Urban Decay eyeshadows because you don't need any base at all. It just packs a nice punch. This one is a little bit more subtle, but it has gold reflex to it, which is quite nice. I think I am going to go and use this one right here called Dream Weaver. So this one has got more of that silver slash purple type of shade, and it feels a little bit gritty. I feel like it's more of a eyeshadow topper, so I'm going to just pat that onto the lid. Did it even do anything? And then blend the top bit. I feel like it didn't really do much in my favor. And that's the shade right there. That's a bummer. I think I am going to go and try and use Angel Fire instead, because I want that pop of like somewhat bright glitter in the middle. For the brow bone highlight, I am going to go and use Bribe again, because I want like a somewhat matte but a little bit of luminosity as opposed to like a shimmery highlight. I'm just gonna quickly pop on some mascara. I don't think I will do a false lashes because I actually quite like the look of having like somewhat dramatic eye and just my natural lashes. For primer today, we're just gonna go back to drugstore, and I'm going to use the Essence Mattifying plus Pore Minimizing. I actually like this primer. It just blurs my pores and also keeps me matte. I know for winter everything needs to be matte, but personally I like a little bit of glow during winter time. For foundation today, we are going to throw back and use the MAC Pro Longwear foundation, and I'm in the shade NC42. I have to be honest, I have not used this for a very long time now. I've gone through bottles and bottles of this one. I actually prefer this compared to the MAC Studio Fix because I feel like it's more nourishing on my skin as opposed to the Studio Fix where it's a little bit too heavy. There's something about the old products that I used to love that works for my skin tone and works for the look that I typically go for, but for some reason I kind of forgotten about them and moved on. But it's nice to use them again. One thing that's changed, I don't really like to put a lot of product on my skin now. Like if there's any discoloration or anything like that, I just let them be because skin is skin. At the end of the day, no one has really a full-on perfect skin. For concealer, another favorite is this NARS Radiant Creamy Concealer. I recently changed the shade. I used to use Custard and I absolutely love that, and I've gone through 2 or 3 tubes of those, but I find that it's way too light on my skin, so I went for a darker shade, and this one is in Ginger, which is perfect because I'm kind of over the highlighting aspect of makeup. I just want my eyes to look a little bit brighter but not over the top bright. I'm going to use the RCMA No Color Powder. I know I said that I don't like this powder, but for some reason everything has changed and I don't love it. I just like it for the fact that it doesn't leave any flashback. For now, since I'm gonna do cream contouring, I want to set the parts where it creases. So for contouring, I have been loving the Fenty Beauty matchsticks, and this one is in the shade Truffle. I like the size. I also like the fact that it gives me what I wanted, and also it's pretty quick, especially in the morning. I don't usually have to use a bronzer because even if I set it with translucent, it just stays put, and I don't have to go over it with like a powder bronzer or contour. It gives me a natural sun-kissed glow, which we all love, especially in winter time because there's not a lot of sun happening. So anything we could use to fake that bronzy glow, I'm all for. To set all of that, I am going to go back to the RCMA powder and use the same brush that I used before, slightly set everything. As you can see, even if I set my face, the kind of like bronzy stuff that we put before is still showing. So I really like that product a lot. For underneath the eyes, I am going to go and use the NARS Light Reflecting Setting Powder. This is a good powder, but you just have to be careful and not bake with it because it leaves the ugliest white cast. So what I like to do is to actually take a little bit on the lid and kind of just spread the product all over my brush and kind of slightly sweep on the under eye, because if you don't buff, you're gonna have a very white under eye. To bronze my face, again, I am going to use the MAC Mineralized Skin Finish, and this one is in the shade Dark Deepest. I actually prefer this compared to the Give Me Sun, because I tried Give Me Sun but it doesn't show up on my skin tone. I don't know why. It acts more of like a powder on me. To semi-contour, I am going to go back to the oldie but a goodie I mean, and use this NARS Laguna Bronzer. Man, I have not used this for ages. I think this is my third powder. I used to love this, but looking back, I don't know how I made it work because right now it's a bit too cool tone for my liking, and it has a little bit of shimmer. That's actually a nice powder. I forgot about that. And for blush and highlight, I am going to use the NARS Duo that I used to love, but somehow I've forgotten about it. This one is in the shade Frenzy. So I have this blush right here and the highlight that, oh my gosh, every time I travel, this is the only blush highlight that I bring with me. Oh, that blush is so pretty. And the highlight, oh, I'm obsessed. It leaves you like a white, I mean not white, a wet highlight. Like look, it just looks wet. It doesn't even look like shimmery or glittery at all. It just looks wet, which I love, especially for like sunny days. It looks pretty nice under the sun. So before we hop on to the lips, which is probably the most exciting part of this video, we are going to finish the lower lash line. And typically for lower lash line, I don't put a lot of product. I like to stick to two colors, usually the transition shade and the darker shade that I use. So for that, I am going to go and use Boundaries first and then go with Endgame. And since we're already here for the inner corner highlight, I am going to go and use Barely Bake, which is the gold shade. That shade was alright, but I feel like Half Baked from the Naked 2 palette pops a punch a little bit more. So I have two different kinds, actually three different kinds of lip products to choose from. I was thinking of going nude, which is already given, so I think I am going to do that last, so definitely going nude. But in between the two, so I have this one right here, which is Hang Up from MAC, and I have this beautiful lipstick, red lipstick from YSL, which is number 14. I think the red matches my top a little bit more, so we will go for red. Here is the makeup look with a red lipstick. And here is the makeup look with a nude lip. So overall, my thoughts on this eyeshadow palette, I feel like it's okay. I'm not really wowed by it. There's a lot of eyeshadow palettes that are way better than this that is out in the market, but for Urban Decay to release a palette with a combination of warm tones and cooler tones, it's actually a good thing because one, they've been around for quite a while, and two, they started this whole naked eyeshadow palettes. This shade right here called Dreamweaver is a little bit disappointing because if you look at it closely in the pan, it looks very shimmery and metallic, but then when you swatch it, it's actually pretty gritty and not a lot of pigment comes off. It just looks like a sheen as opposed to it being metallic. The same goes for Angel Fire. It has a weird texture, but the mattes in this eyeshadow palette, however, is pretty good compared to the other naked eyeshadows that I have swatched. They're very pigmented, they blend beautifully, and I love the fact that the end game right here looks a little bit lighter from the pan, but actually you could build it up based on what type of brush you use. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please make sure to subscribe to my channel for more updates, and I will catch you on the next one. Bye!